What's the worst thing you guys think can happen to you while you're driving in traffic? The biggest stressor for you in traffic? Okay, car accident. I would say car accident is up there. What else? Okay, destination on time. How many have ever had somebody pull out in front of them? Has anybody ever had somebody pull out in front of them? Raise their hands. Okay, what are some feelings that evokes? Okay, yeah, there's some anger. Any other things? Okay, has anybody ever done anything as a result of that? Like where you've been mad enough that somebody's pulled out in front of you, you've actually done something about it? Okay, how many honked horns? How many have done something worse than that? Anyway, I won't ask you to share. But the question I have now is, how many of you have pulled out in front of somebody? Okay, what kind of feelings does that evoke? Accomplishment? Possibly. If it was intentional. Okay, anything else? Yeah, I think what I want to get at here is I think we've all been on one end of the spectrum or the other. So what I want to do now is talk about maybe an experience that you've had that you've done something that is completely uncharacteristic of you. Now for this, I'll share an example. I have a friend that he's kind of a mellow guy, but about 3 years ago, he was at a USC football game, and he was about 2 rows in front of just a really obnoxious fan for the opposing team. And so I think it was probably, he made it through halftime, but I think it was probably midway through the 3rd quarter, like, like the fan said something, and he snapped. And so he jumped up and jumped over bleacher and swung and hit the person. And then the people he was with decided it was probably the best time to leave the stadium before police showed up. As a result, he broke his hand. So what I want you to do now is I want you just in groups of 2, just turn to your neighbor and think of a story. It doesn't have to be you, but think of a time when you or somebody you know has done something that's just it's definitely emotion driven, but has done something that's just completely uncharacteristic of who they are or who you are. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Okay, let's bring it back now. Okay, do we have any amazing examples that somebody would like to share that they heard in their group? Jalen, let's hear yours. What do you got?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
He's lying, but make one on the spot. My teammate, when he punched that guy in the face.
Okay.
Weeks ago, he's like the nicest guy on the team, and like some dude spit in his face, so they just punched him.
Okay, so the question I would ask there, now if somebody spit in your face, how would you react to that? How many would do what this football player did? Raise your hand. Retaliate and hit back. Okay. Okay. So definitely, I know the football player he's talking about, and it's definitely completely uncharacteristic of him. Quite possibly the most gentle person I think that I met as a result of EDPT 110. Any other examples? Okay, so let's move on here. We're going to talk about this idea of ABC and the rational emotive therapy. So with this, we start out with causes. So we've got activating events, and spitting in somebody's face is probably a good activating event. Others getting pulled out in front of might be another event. With that, it can be past, present, future, and with future it can be real or it can be imagined. So I'll give you an example. My oldest daughter is 3 years old. Over the summer, she was climbing like at some playground on a climbing wall, and there was a wasp nest on one of the holds, and so wasps obviously don't take too kindly to attacking her nest. Well, as a result, she was stung 4 times. She now has this intense fear of bees. Now, my 18-month-old daughter, one of her first words, ironically, was a bee, a bee. And so my 18-month-old daughter would be walking around saying a bee, and my 3-year-old daughter would be freaking out. Where? And then this all kind of escalated to a point where they were at a park, and there was a bee, and Hannah, my older daughter, just lost it. And as a result, my 18-month-old daughter lost it as well. And so she's kind of developed this phobia, a proxy because of what Hannah had experienced. So we have these activating events that, when unchecked, go straight to consequences. So as much as I try to explain to Hannah that if you sit down and think about it, not every bee that you see is going to sting you. And it's been, what, 4 months now? So she's had this experience. She knows that not every bee is going to sting her, and yet there's still a very real, you see a bee, and it's hit the freak out button. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about, just give a couple of examples of people that have had activating events in their lives and how they responded to it. So the first one I want to go with is, after all, there we go, okay. This man. Anyone know who this is? Who is it? Yeah, it's Booker T. Washington. Okay. Now, Booker T. Washington. Again, this is late 1800s. This is in the Deep South. Against incredible odds, he went and was able to get an education, became president of the Tuskegee Institute, and so as he's become president of this institute, he then is in an affluent white neighborhood, and he's walking down the street, and this lady comes up to him and says, "I'll give you. I need you to chop some wood. I'll give you a couple $2 if you chop some wood." And so, because he had no real pressing engagements at the time, he said, okay. So he went back, he chopped the wood. Not only did he chop the wood, he hauled it into her fireplace. As he's exiting the building, somebody recognizes him. And this young lady tells the older lady that was President Booker T. Washington of the Tuskegee Institute. And this lady was so appalled, just embarrassed by this, that she went down to the institute the next day and apologized to him. And this is what he said that I think is absolutely remarkable. He says, "It's perfectly all right, madam. Occasionally I enjoy a little manual labor. Besides, it's always a delight to do something for a friend." So as a result of this experience and how he reacted, you think about that activating situation right there, as he's walking down the street. He's president of an institution, and being asked to do something that's obviously well below him. His response to that and the way he reacted to that was amazing. As a result, she became one of the largest donors to the institute, and also was very influential in having others donate to the institution. So, what about this? What's this a picture of? Anyone know? Okay, yeah, Auschwitz. Auschwitz is on the right there. This is the one on the left is actually, it's a concentration camp that's just north of Berlin called Sachsenhausen. Now, there are two stories that I want to tell you about. The first one deals with a man who was a lawyer in Poland, and this is from a book called Return to Tomorrow. And as much as I love to tell stories, I'm going to read this one because his words do a lot more justice than mine do. This is what he says. He says, "We lived in the Jewish section of Warsaw. My wife, our 2 daughters, and our 3 little boys. When the Germans reached our street, they lined everyone up against a wall and opened up with machine guns. I begged to be to be allowed to die with my family, but because I spoke German, they put me to work in a work group." Now this is the part that I really want you to listen to, because this is the power. He says, "I had to decide right then whether to let myself hate the soldiers who had done this. It was an easy decision, really. I was a lawyer. In my practice, I had seen too often what hate could do to people's minds and bodies. Hate had just killed the 6 people who mattered the most to me. I decided then and there that I would spend the rest of my life, whether a few days or a few years, loving every person I came in contact with." Okay, you think about this activating event that he experienced and his response to it. That's really where the power is. The last one that I want to share here is this is Viktor Frankl, who was also a concentration camp survivor. he was sent directly to Auschwitz, where he and his wife, they hadn't been married for very long, were split up immediately, and he found out later that she was sent immediately to the gas chamber. But this is what he says after experiencing 5 years in Auschwitz and in Dachau, the two roughest concentration camps in World War II. He says this: everything can be taken from a man, but the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So I'm gonna jump back to this a little bit, but this is probably getting a little more heavy than it should. But what I want you to take away from this is this concept that really we decide how we respond to situations. And with that, I'm going to give you guys now an opportunity. We're going to look at a clip, and you can decide how you're going to. I'll let you guys vote on how you would respond to this activating event. Possibly. Okay, we'll stop it there.
Oh, wait, why?
No, he doesn't get attacked, sorry. It's pretty anticlimactic. But the question I'm going to ask you guys is, what would you do in this situation? You walk out of your front porch, you walk down the stairs, you see this rat snake there. How do you respond?
Wait, are rat snakes dangerous?
Okay, and with that, I'm going to add, how many are afraid of snakes? Raise your hands. And of those that have raised their hands, how many have been bitten by a snake? Anybody? Okay, we got a couple. Okay, well, the scorpions are pretty bad too. Okay, let's go. Does this have a timer? We'll override. Okay, so yeah, that kind of fits with the norm. We got people that would scream and run and hide, as opposed to they're sort of a good pet, 5%. Okay, ultimately, what this all boils down to is again this idea of being able to really just straighten out our thinking, to be able to see things as they really are. Okay, so we talk about this. We got an activating event. We've got some sort of emotion that event could possibly bring up in us, but there's triggers here that we can control, and these are our beliefs and our self-talk. Okay, so with that, Jalen, what do you see? Does anyone see anything different from that?
Yes.
Okay, Peter, what do you see?
The camera is taking sideways, so yeah, that's what we should have.
Okay. So really what this is it's a matter of perspective. And so you look at what Viktor Frankl experienced in Auschwitz and Dachau. And really what we're dealing with, and this is something that as I was doing interviews at the beginning of this semester, I met with one of you, and we were talking about this, and he said something that was very striking to me. He said, it's what we deal with mostly are first world problems. Hopefully none of us are ever going to have to go through what Viktor Frankl went through. And that being said, you guys are going to experience a lot in your time here at USC. And so there are going to be a lot of activating events that are going to happen to you. And you have to be able to see things in perspective and see things as they really are. That a poor grade on my quiz isn't really the end of everything. And so my challenge, I guess, is just to really think about, once you have an activating event and you want to get riled up, sit down and think about, okay, let's look at this in the greater perspective. Okay, are there any questions or comments? Okay, that's all I got. So we'll turn it back to